So how was Hawaii?
That was good. How the difference was so bad. We gained 6 hours of sleep and we lost. So it's just,
Yeah, that's tough. How long was the flight?
going down, it was like an hour to Charlotte. And it was, how long was it Texas? And it was 8 hours for Texas.
That's tough. Flew from South Carolina to Alaska to Japan. That took I think it was like 12 hours. It's crazy.
So did you get a lot of downtime?
Not really.
You didn't?
We got like 2 days to do whatever we wanted, but the rest of
It's, I guess. So they just catch a loose or did you have to stay with teammates?
we had to stay with that loose one first.
Just check in every so often. Brian's here, right? Yes, you're here. Is Steve there? Yes,
We'll be done again on Friday.
okay.
We have a game in North Carolina, we leave on Thursday, we'll be access Sunday.
This Friday?
Yeah, but we should be able to get on the thing. Because I think our games on Friday, I think are like in the afternoon, so we should be able to, and it will be in like a normal time zone.
Think about what to do about that. You'll see why here in a second. Darby. Fishers. Hamilton. Brenda, I guess you get it. Hellman. Gotcha. Ashley back there in WVSP, right? Still Miller. Taylor. Awesome. All the Millers. Moody, Newsom. Norris isn't here yet. For Rollins. Ruffin. Saunders. Saunders yet? Chamberlain. Rollins is online. Sherman, Taylor Pierce, Thompson, Valdez, Vargas, Enfield, and Young is here. Did I miss anybody? It's 8 o'clock. I'll try to get a slow start. So technically, this is a new course for two reasons. I mentioned this before, just a reminder. One, because it's a new textbook. Two, because it's the first time we've done it with online stuff. But I designed the intellectual material. The person, someone else makes this website, basically, is the best way to put it. So anyway, we've had some technical issues. So the exam is going to be Friday. So you're going to come in, bring your computer, and take it on Friday. If you want a way around it, just email me sometime today. Say, hey, I'd rather do it on Saturday. Can you meet me online at whatever o'clock? So basically, you're going to have 15 minutes to do it. But because it's not going to be the way I planned it, it's going to be Google Docs, just like the study guide. So I either need you to be here or I find a time to meet. Which is, again, if you let me know today, you don't want to come in on Friday or meet some other time, let me know. I'll do my best to make that happen. Or you can even do what I'm doing right now, which is get on convenience. You can do it by yourself and record it. And again, email me today if you can talk about that. But the point is, exams on Friday, bring your computer. If you don't want to do it on Friday, make some adjustments. Let me know. I'll work around it for you. Good? All right. So today then is the exam review. We're recording. I'm going to go through the two study guides, answer the questions, tell you what I think is going to be on the exam, what I think is not going to be on the exam, and so on and so forth. But before I go through each individual question, we only have 50 minutes. Does anybody have anything specific that you want me to answer? All right. done. Doors. And Marcus. So yeah, like I was just telling them, the exam is on Friday. So you come in, bring your computer. Yes. Yes, are you not able to?
I just did it, I haven't.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you should be, once you do the study guide, it should be like open, you should be able to still see it. If not, definitely let me know. So it's a great question.
It's only if you click the box, because in chapter 1 I did, in chapter 2 I did.
So this box to
There's
click.
a box that at the bottom.
Okay. So you don't have access to the chapter one?
No, the one I screwed up. No.
Okay. We're not looking into that. Anybody else do it? Like I said, obviously you're gonna need access to the study guide. So if you have issues, let me know and I'll fix it for you. But let's jump into the study guide. Here we go. And again, does anybody have any specific questions before I just go through all the questions? All right. Well, how about this? Let's try to make it a little bit more interesting. Yes.
So there's the event.
Yes. That's the reason why you have to come in or meet me, because it'll be like, the exam's gonna look like this. It's the Google Docs and you can't put a set at a time. So because of that, I need you to be here and make sure you get to minutes. Or, like I said, it's adjustments on. Yes, yes. Okay. Yeah, all the questions are both first, and almost all of them are from these study guides. Just remember, first assignment in this class was to read syllabus. So it was probably going to be a couple questions. from syllabus. Anyway, what is biology? Who knows the answer to that one? Yes, but it does get a little bit trickier, right? That's what your textbook says. I specifically said it's the scientific study of life. So if you get that question, that would be the correct answer. But if you guess the study of life, you'll at least get partial choice. So, next one. All right, you need to know the properties of life. We'll go through this quickly. I think the test question about the properties of life doesn't look like this. I think it's more like, hey, you found this thing. Which one of these? Yeah, and here's a description of it. When part of that description does not indicate that it's alive. But anyway, what is not a property of life? Populations of organisms rarely change over time. That's the correct answer because of the word rarely, right? Because populations of organisms do change over time. That is a property of life. So that's why that's the correct answer. Won't talk much more about that one because that the exact question will not be on the exam. Here's a good one. Which structure can perform all the activities required for life? What do you guys think? What's the answer to that one? Of those things, which one basically the only one that's truly alive? Cells, that's correct. There will be an answer like that. Obviously it'll be reworded, but yes, you need to know that cells are alive and all those other things are stuff that makes up cells. And there's going to be a version of this. A reliable source about the usefulness of an herbal supplement is likely to be recognizable by all the one following characteristics. Choose the exception. Basically, this question is saying, hey, we're talking about pseudoscience. Here's some information. Which one might indicate that it's pseudoscience, or at least not a good argument against pseudoscience? So, which one of these things is not necessarily saying that this is reputable information that you're getting? So you might know the answer. Basically, let me ask you another way. Which of these might be a red flag? Like someone's trying to sell you something. There's a lot of that, a lot of marketing pyramid schemes. Someone's trying to sell you something and they give you some information like, look, this is good, legit stuff. And then all these things could be said about what they gave you that information. Which one of those would say, that's possibly a red flag? D, good. I would say D. Perhaps C or D. But yes, the authors are employed by the manufacturer of the supplement. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's not inaccurate, but it's a possible red flag. Because obviously there's a conflict of interest there. Any questions about that one? There will be a version of that question on the exam. Science is blank. Yeah. What is science of all those? What do you guys think? What is it? A? A is correct. I like that. This search for truth. That's not really specific enough. Religion is also the search for truth, right, so to speak. It is not an organized set of principles for how to behave ethically and morally. Now, scientists do have an organized set of principles for how to behave ethically and morally. That in itself is not science. Yes, the answer to that is A. I think that might be on the exam, so first that might be. Any questions about that one? The most common incorrect answer is D. So when you see that, don't choose D. All right, which of these statements is correct? Scientific ideas are subjected to repeated testing. Science can be used to prove or disprove the idea that deities or spirits cause earthquakes, blah, blah, blah. Science does not require observations that other people can confirm, and only exploratory science can lead to important conclusions about nature. Which one of those is true? Should be easy. Hey, yes. Scientific ideas are subjected to repeated testing. This might be on the exam. This is a good one I could use this exam. I might reword it. So I could turn A into the incorrect answer by saying scientific ideas are not subjected to repeated testing, right? Or scientific ideas are subjected to one-time testing, right? See how I can turn that into the wrong answer? And then I could turn B into a correct statement by saying science cannot be used to prove or disprove deities. Yes, got it. So when you say, again, when you're studying these, memorize verbatim. It's not going to be word for word the same. Just understand the concept of it. Make sure you're aware of that for the exams. What was the correct answer on the study guide is probably be the correct answer on the exam. I can reword it better. Anyway, any questions about that one? All right. Oh yeah, let's do Phoenix words. First one's going to be Jimmy. Is it Jimmy Buffett? He's for along the woods. Good time for all this. Anyway, yeah, which of these statements is a valid scientific hypothesis? Human history is determined by a series of supernatural events. Humans should help in the conservation of other animal species. Humans are controlled by forces beyond our understanding, and humans and bacteria share common genetic code. Which one of those is a valid scientific hypothesis? D is correct. And the reason the other ones aren't correct is, well, again, the supernatural thing, we can't test that, right? That's not in the realm of science. Humans should, but again, science doesn't technically say what you should do, so that's why that's not correct. And again, let's see what the forces beyond the understanding. So remember, the valid scientific hypothesis has to be testable, falsified. So you could say a valid scientific hypothesis is Bigfoot exists in West Virginia. That is, well, we can say that's a valid scientific hypothesis because it's testified. It's testable, right? Falsified. So anyway, study may be pseudoscience if what? The evidence is anecdotal. The results are published in a journal where studies are reviewed by other experts in the field. The experiments are use controlled experiments or statistical analyses are performed on experimental results. What's the correct answer there? Yes. So if you guys don't know, anecdotal evidence is just like someone just says something. This happened to me. What sucks about anecdotal evidence is it's really powerful, right? So you can look at the safety record of a vaccine. It's like 1 in 2 million people have an adverse reaction, right? That's really safe. But if you know that person that had an adverse reaction, you said, listen, I took that vaccine that had hair growing out in the middle of my nipple. Oh, right? Because that's anecdotal evidence. They told you, you know that person. So, yeah. Anyway, any questions about that? Try to go quicker. Love to get through all these questions. You try to start your car, but it doesn't start. Which one of these is a prediction? I can read through them. You guys can see it. Which one do you think is the prediction? This is also going to be on the exam, reworded, and a commonly missed question. So which one of those is a prediction? Yes, glad you said that. That's the most common wrong answer. So because A is hypothesis. R is battery is dead. That's a tentative explanation. You can test it. Yeah, so B, right? Because remember, a prediction is a statement that kind of explains how, it's an if-then statement that explains how you're going to test your hypothesis. So hypothesis is my battery dead. So from that one hypothesis, you can come up with a few predictions. This one happens to say, if I recharge the battery, then my car will start. Or you can say, if I replace the battery, then my car will start. If I attach my battery to jumper cables to another car, then my car will start. See how there's different predictions, all based on that one hypothesis. So glad you guessed that. That's so when it's a prediction, remember if then, and it needs to basically describe how you're going to test your prediction. So yeah, that question will be on the exam. Probably won't be about a car battery, but that's the idea, right? Anyway, any questions about prediction? If I remember correctly, there's also going to be a question like that that's about a hypothesis, in which case A would have been the correct answer. Speaking of which, the hypothesis is what? What do you think is the best answer there? I know it might be hard for some of you to answer. Yes, A is correct. Proposed explanation for a set of observations. That's the best answer on that list. Of course, a better answer would be a proposed explanation for a set of observations that can be tested, right? It's different ways you could say it. But that's another good time to remind you, with these tests, you're going to look for the best answer, right? So it's a multiple choice. That might not be the perfect answer, but it's the best. Or there might be other good answers, but you got to choose the best. So that's all right. This next question basically says, which of these is the proper order for the scientific method? And that's a good question. There is going to be some version of this on the exam. See if anyone tell me what the answer is. And I love it because none of them were full. None of those options are complete scientific method. Questions asked which of these are at least in the correct order. C. I heard somebody whispering. Yes, C is correct, right? Observation, hypothesis, prediction, experiment. Questions like that. Straightforward. How are hypotheses different than theories? What's the answer there?
I think Abbott's correct.
It's a common guess, and that is incorrect. Yeah, and I didn't write this. This comes from the previous text of publishers. And I think they did that kind of as a trick question. Probably your whole life you grew up hearing hypotheses are educated guesses. But we're trying to get past that. So they're not educated guesses. The answer is A. Like that too, but no, it's actually A. Theories are more comprehensive. Of course, I could reword that to say theory. Hypotheses are less comprehensive. So theories are bigger, right? Both of them are derived from experimentation. For the sake of exam review, so we can't talk about it a lot. A good way to think of it is a bunch of hypotheses that lead to a theory. Right? So you have a theory about natural selection, test it. Someone else has a theory about natural selection, all these different theories or hypotheses, but test it. Then eventually you come to a theory. So hypothesis is smaller than a theory. Better way to look at it. Any questions about that? All right. Here's another. Yeah, there might be some questions like this. Basically, like we're talking about the properties of life here. Suppose the scientists want to determine if the substance retrieved from outer space is alive. Which of these properties of the substance would not help her make that determination? So again, it's basically the question we had before. Which of these is not property of life? Yeah, C is correct. Being multicolor, never said anything about that. But yeah, being made of cells is the property of life. Maintaining constant temperature, that's homeostasis, that's the property of life. Orderly arrangement, that's the first property of life that I gave you. So yeah, any questions about that one? All right, I guess the next word for attendance then will be space. All right, scientists wish to test new antibiotics' ability to treat stubborn bacterial infections. He tests his hypothesis that the antibiotic works better than the existing treatments by giving bacterial infections to mice than treating them with the antibiotic. He then determines how many of the mice recover from their infections. What is missing from the experimental design? It's a good one. Yes, the answer is B. Should let me read it. He's missing a control group of mice receive that dose. Unlike that, he's missing control group. Obviously, they do it. Yeah. So the answer would be B. One of you said it. Because you have to have a control group that didn't receive it at all. Because, yeah, sure, these mice recovered from the antibiotic because of the antibiotic. They recovered from the infection. Was it because of the antibiotic, or was it just because the mice have a good immune system? Right? So that's going to be control. So, in whoever's defense said, hey, it would be better. Could argue that it would be better too if you also had a group that had happened to us. But the best answer of those three is the middle. Any questions about that? All right. Which of the following partial list correctly presents levels of organization from simplest to most complex? So we did talk about this in chapter 1 from the beginning, where smallest to largest, which of those is in the correct order. I don't remember this exam, but anyway, which of those is the correct order from smallest to largest? See? Yep, that's correct. Still starting next to it. Yes, that is correct. Molecules, cells, populations, ecosystems. D looked almost correct because atoms, then organelles, and then messed up with molecules. That's out of the back. So we don't have time to talk about all of it. But anyway, all dogs are mammals. My golden retriever is a dog. Therefore, my golden retriever, skip that one. So that definitely will be on the exam. Short on time. Yesterday, the rooster crowed as soon as the sun came up. The day before that, the rooster crowed that again. We'll skip that one. Because we're short on time. Scientists study. It's a good one, but it won't be on the exam. Sure. Scientists trying to determine genes responsible for. Well, that one also won't be on the. There'll be no questions. I'll go ahead and say it. Between the difference between inductive or deductive reasoning, or the difference. Descriptive or hypothesis-based science, or basic versus applied science. So it's all skip those. A lot to skip on it. Also, there'll be no questions like this. I love these questions. They're great for the study guides. They get you thinking. You have to read something and understand it. If you only have 50 minutes to take the exam, so you're not going to have long questions like that. I'll be short. What's the answer to this? But read this. Answer a bunch of questions off of it. So that's it for chapter 1. Any questions about chapter 1 study guide? All right, now let's jump into the long one, chapter 2. Which again, the previous textbook was 2 different chapters. It's 2 chapters. All right, blank is I might not ask you that. It's not really important. Yeah, all right. Yeah, let's answer this one. Which of those is an example of an element? Nitrogen. Good, nitrogen is the correct answer. And it's not that you need to know that nitrogen is an element, but I have talked to you about water, so you need to know that's a molecule. Talked about glucose, so you need to know that's a molecule, specifically monomer of carbohydrates. And salt, that we talked about, is an ionic compound, right? So it's not that you should know nitrogen's an element, you should know the rest of them are not elements. Yes, sir.
So I didn't say anything like that, but I just clicked on this thing. I don't have to do it. So I see it.
Interesting. Has anybody else had that problem?
Yeah, I didn't do it.
Okay, thanks for letting me know. I'll fix that. Just you two, but you have the same work for you. Are you signed into your WVSU email?
Yeah, so it's outside of my line, so that's the BSU.
Interesting. All right, I'll work on that. See, that's what I'm glad we're doing this. Yeah, I'll fix that during office hours. Anyway, any other questions?
Yeah.
Yes,
We have like 3 more pages to print.
chapter 1.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that. too.
Oh, yeah, we're skipping the rest of those were like long things. Like, again, you read a whole thing and then ask,
Oh,
and then the other one for vocabulary.
okay.
So it's a great question. None of that's going to be on the table. Any other questions? It's good questions. All right. All right. What are the 4 most common elements? You should know this. I told you it's the big 4. It's the correct answer. Of course, after last week's lab, should be great for the brain.
B.
Yeah, B is the correct answer. Carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, hydrogen, all that stuff you had to call it. On that note, by the way, yeah, B is the correct answer. It's a good time to remind you, I'm still behind on grading. Took the whole weekend off. Don't have internet, so if you haven't done the lab, you can still do it. I haven't checked today. questions about that question? All right, in order to have a positive charge, an atom must have what? For it to be positive, which one of those is equivalent? A is correct, right? Protons are positive, electrons are negative. To reword that question, say, in order to have a negative charge, an atom must have what? Right? Reword the answers, right? I can change A to say fewer electrons than protons, right? Saying the same thing in different ways. And mind you, don't memorize these word for word. You should understand the concept. But yeah, the correct answer to that question, right, is written is A. It's positive if it has more protons than electrons. It's negative if it has more electrons than protons. Of course, neutrons don't play into the well. So neutral. Any questions about that question? All right. All atoms of an element have the same number of what? Another way of saying this is which one of those defines the element? I'm scrolling up so it's a little bit. Which one is the bad answer? So all carbons have this, for example, all atoms of carbon have the same number of what? Is correct. Protons, right? If you have a different number of electrons, that's okay. We just have a charge, positive or negative. If you have a different number of neutrons, remember that's an isotope. You cannot have a different number of protons. By definition, you change the number of protons, change the other. Any questions about that? Okay. An atom's blank are found in its nucleus. It's pretty straightforward. What would you find in the nucleus of an atom? Yes. All right, let's give it to you. It's A. Neutrons, protons. Electrons are on the outside. Neutrons, protons are on the inside. It's pretty straightforward. Any questions about that? All right, beryllium's atomic mass is 9. Its atomic number is 4. How many protons are found in beryllium atom? I'll go ahead and give you a hint. This is a sort of a trick question. Not that tricky, but it's a little bit tricky. But 4 is the answer, yeah. The way it's a trick question is just setting it up like this for a math problem, but it's not. It says the atomic number is 4. The atomic number is how many protons it has. So it's trying to set it up like a math question. Now, had it said beryllium's atomic mass is 9, the atomic number is 4, how many neutrons are found in it? Then the answer will be 5. That's 4 plus 5 equals 9. You know the atomic mass, the atomic number is 4, therefore it must have 4 protons. You know the atomic mass is 9, therefore we know it's missing 5. Right? 5 left, 5 neutrons. Anyway, yes. For the exam, you'll get some version of that. It won't be beryllium. It will be basic math like that. I don't think I did it as a trick question. I think it actually was a basic math course. So, any questions about that? Actually, it's your time to punch too. So, I wrote the exam with the idea that you guys are going to be taking it on your own, right? I didn't know that we were going to be doing it on Friday. So, for those of you who have my one-away classes, welcome. Surprise to you. My questions are worded really weird, so don't let it throw you. Like this question, instead of just saying that, it would have a bunch of other information. It doesn't even matter, right? Beryllium tastes sour. Dogs don't like beryllium. And then it would add you to the question. So don't let it throw you. And also, I'll be here so if you need to clarify a question. I can do that. But I just want you to know they are worded weird. And it's not to throw you off. There's apps. People use to cheat. And it throws that app off. Anyway, any questions about this question? Okay. An uncharged atom of mercury has an atomic number of 80, atomic mass of 200. This atom has blank protons, blank neutrons, and blank electrons. Just answer it so we're not wasting time. We know if it has an atomic number of 80, we know that it has 8 protons. Atomic mass of 200. Okay. Well, we know it's not charged. So we know it has 80 protons, 80 electrons. How many neutrons does it have? Well, it has mass of 200, 80 protons, then 80 plus what gives us 200, and the answer is 420. I don't think I'm gonna have a question like that. You guys see how I got that, right? Atomic number is how many protons it has. And since it's saying anything about being charged, that is automatic how many electrons it has. And the atomic number, you use that to figure out the atomic, the number of neutrons, right? Again, 200 is the mass. So 80 plus what gives you 200, 80 plus. Oops. Little way. Any questions about that? Basic math, not gonna be linear, but what's the kind of basic math question to play? Isotopes of an element have the same number of blank, different numbers of blank. Let's just make it easier. I mean, I know there's choices out there, but isotopes of an element have different numbers of what? What is it that you change about atom to make this? We'll just say it. Correct, neutrons, right? If you change the number of protons, you change the element. If you change the number of electrons, you have an ion. If you change the number of neutrons, that gets you an isotope. So any questions about that? All right. Related note, an atom with an electrical charge is what? Which one of these things is an atom that has an electrical charge? Charge. Something disappears.
Is it A?
I like that. No.
C?
C, yes. Don't let those confuse you. They look similar, right? They both start with ion. Yeah. Or with an I. Remember, isotope, different number of neutrons. Ions, it has an electrical charge. But think about an ionic compound, right? Ionic bonds. That's why they bond. Because one's positive, one's negative. Good guesses. How do radioactive isotopes differ? I can ask that one. One's radioactive. It's not. The bond between oppositely charged ions is what kind of bond? Don't overthink this one. This one should be easy. I like that, but no. Polar would be if there's a slight charge, right? So a polar molecule like water. That's your oxygen, hydrogens. There's a slight positive charge in the hydrogens, a slight negative charge in the oxygens, but it's slight. If it's fully charged, it's completely a positive thing and a complete negative thing. What kind of bond is that?
D?
Hey, thank you for saying, yeah, it's in the name. Between oppositely charged ions, it's an ionic bond. Actually, once again, I'm glad someone guessed polar, because some of these questions you can get partial credit. And that would be one of those where if you guess that, if you guess polar, you get 0 credits. So I'll remind you, there are no polar bonds. There's polar molecules that are responsible for hydrogen bonds. No such thing as a polar bond. So time to tell you, a lot of these questions you get partial credit as long as your answer is in the right ballpark. You should get partial credit. Anyway, any questions about that one? I guess the next sentence words I just said it would be ballpark. I don't think these questions going to be on there, but does anybody know, looking at that reaction, what kind of bond is keeping that potassium really? I've never shown it to you, but there should be a way to guess it. This is basically the same question we had, but for this, it's reworded. The answer is ionic. It's hard for you guys to see, but yeah, it's really hard for you to see. That's negative, that's positive. That's what makes it an ion. But that question won't be on the exam. But if it were, again, see that's something with charges coming together. That's not on the bond. That's in charge. It's not on the bond. What name is given to the bonds that involve the sharing of electrons? So we're not talking about giving them up and having a full charge. Which one do we have over sharing electrons? Okay. Yes, covalent. Yes. Just think of cohabitating or co-parenting, right? If you're cohabitating, you're sharing a place to live. If you're co-parenting, you're sharing a parental duties, right? So covalent sharing electrons. Any questions about that one? Okay. Sulfur has an atomic number of 16. How many covalent bonds can it form? You might want to have like something to draw with this exam. Or maybe you can just do it mentally, but just think, all right, the first one holds 2. Next one holds 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's 10 total. I said 16. All right, so the next one's going to hold 6. There's only 6 to put on there, right? It's 2 plus 8 is 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it only has 6 on that outer ring. How many more does it need to be full? Good. So how many times can it bond? Good. The answer is 2. And there will probably be some version of that question on the exam, but again, I'm going to change it so it won't be sulfur. It's not like you need to memorize what you think about sulfur. The idea is you can figure that out, right? So 2 electrons on the inside. As far as we're concerned in this class, 8 electrons on everything else. It's trying to get a full ring. So however many electrons it needs to get full, that's how many times it can bond. As far as we're concerned in this class. Anybody, any questions about that? All right, this is a commonly missed question. I mentioned this during the lecture. I'm going to mention it again. The hydrogen and oxygen atoms of a water molecule are held together by what kind of bonds? Again, polar is not really an option. You would guess that you get 0 credit. At least if you would guess maybe another one, you get partial credit. But what kind of bond is holding? How you drew it? With those charges there. What's holding that oxygen to those hydrogens? Covalent. It's a commonly missed question. Because of this next question, which makes it trickier. That question in itself is about tricky. But you think about this one. Adjacent water molecules interact with each other via what kind of bond? So not this one water molecule, but a bunch of water molecules. What holds them together? The hydrogen bond, correct. People will miss that question. I'm not trying to be tricky. I'm telling you right now, both of those questions are going to be on there. Make sure you pay attention. Talking about one water molecule, it's covalent. Talking about multiple water molecules interacting with each other, it's hydrogen bonds. Any questions about that? Why is water considered a polar molecule? It's a long one to read, so I'll just give you the answer. It's because there's a slight charge, right? The negative, I already talked about it. Oxygen has a slight negative charge. Hydrogen has a slight positive charge. I don't remember what those options are, but yeah. The reason that is because, oxygen has 8 protons. Hydrogen only has 1. So if you're an electron, you're going to be wanting to hang out up there with the oxygen. Yeah. So again, someone said C is it. Yeah, slight negative, that's correct. So the questions about that. Right. Awesome. There we go. Okay. There we go. Just talk about this. Adjacent water molecules interact with what? Basically, this is the same question. It is. Instead of saying hydrogen bonds, it gets the definition of hydrogen bonds. So, yeah, so B is the correct answer. Electrical attraction between the hydrogen and one molecule and the oxygen and another. Any questions about that? So again, the answer is hydrogen bonds, but instead of that word being an option, it's the definition of that. When a base is added to a buffered solution, the buffer will do what? So first of all, what does a buffer do? You guys remember, like in general, what's a buffer do? Yeah, it resists changes in pH, right? So basically, a buffer is going to do whatever the opposite of what's happening to it. So in a sense, when it says a base is added to a buffered solution, the buffer will do what? It's kind of the opposite of what a base would do. That's why you should know this, because the opposite of the base is an acid, right? So in a sense, it's almost look at this and say which one of those describes an acid. Oops. And the answer is C. Right? Acids give off H plus ions. Bases give off OH minus ions.
Do you, what was the answer to the last question? Here.
It is B. Good question. And the reason it's not A, if they were sharing electrons, that would be a valent bond. So there would be adjacent water molecules. There would be one molecule sharing electrons. It's part of the molecule. Good question. All right, the human body cells are approximately how much water? And I just told you this in the lecture, so this is just a number you need to know. I know the answer. Yes, sure. That's the closest guess, other than the correct one. See, 70 to 95% water. Yes. And again, if someone were to guess a day, there would be a partial credit. C would be full credit. I think the other ones would give you zero credit. Any questions about that? All right. The tendency of molecules of the same kind to stick together is called what? I don't think this is on the exam, but let's talk about it anyway. They're the same kind and they're sticking together. What do you call that?
B.
Yes. Yeah, that's like the opposite. This one will be on the exam. Well, some tiny insects able to walk on water. Why? B is correct, right? The surface tension, basically surface tension. Water has its hydrogen bonds, so it's pulled together a little bit easier. Yeah, that won't be on the exam. As water freezes, what happens? What does the molecules do? Yes. The way you can remember that is ice floats, right? The reason it floats, or the reason the evening floats, is less dense than the liquid that it's in. So for water to be less dense, it has to be farther apart. Any questions about that one? All right. Sugar dissolves when stirred into coffee. The coffee is the blank, the sugar is the blank, and the sweet coffee is the blank. All right, so what is the coffee? First of all, you're dissolving sugar in coffee. What is the coffee? Actually, once you get that, the rest of it falls into place. The answer is the solvent. Solvent does the dissolving. The solute is the thing that gets dissolved. Solution is the result of it. Any questions about that? All right, we kind of already talked about this, but a base does what? All those choices, what does a base do? The answer is D. It's the opposite of an acid, right? And again, this is a good one where I could give you some examples of rewording. So first of all, I could ask you about an acid instead of a base, but I could make D incorrect by saying it adds H plus to a solution, right? That would make it incorrect. Then I can make C correct by saying it adds OH minus to a solution. That would make that correct. I can make V correct by saying it increases the pH of the solution. And A is just nonsense. So anyway, any questions about a base? Remember, a base, pH goes up, and it's adding OH minus. An acid, pH goes down, it's adding H plus. On that note, relative to a pH of 7, a pH of 4 has what? I like this question. So it requires you to know the difference between base and an acid, but also you need to remember what I talked about pH scale. You need 1,000 times higher. Yep, that is correct. B is the correct answer. Because remember, each step is 10, right? So we're going from 7 to a 4. So 7 to a 6 would be 10 times. 7 to 5 would be 100 times. 7 to 4 would be 1,000 times. Yeah, so right off the bat, it doesn't even matter what the rest of them say, because that's only when it says 1,000 times. So there you go. But yes, 4 for acidic than 7, therefore, that's 1,000 times higher H plus. I can easily change this question. Instead of saying, I could say relative to a pH of 4, pH of 7 has what? In those cases, they're like the opposite answer, right? Or I might not use a 4 or 7 at all. Or I might say instead of 1,000 times higher H plus concentration, I could say 1,000 times lower OH minus concentration. So again, when you're studying, please remember all the different ways to describe pH. Any questions about that? What name is given to the substances that resist changes in pHs? We've already talked about this, but what substance resists changes in pH? That is correct. Buffers resist changes to pH. Question about that. All right, what is the outcome of evaporative cooling in the form of sweating? I'm not gonna ask you that. That's like, wait, you sweat because you're trying to cool off, right? I can ask you. An atom has 20 protons, 20 neutrons, 20 electrons. What atom is being described? He is correct, right? The way you know that is the number of protons is the atomic number. So if that's 20 protons, must be the atomic number. And obviously, you don't memorize anything about calcium or neons or chromium. The idea here is you need to know the number of protons equals the atomic number. That's how we're supposed to guess that. I think there's a version of the song that's native. Obviously, I'll be asking about a different element other than calcium. Anyway, any questions about that? All right. Basically, we've already had this question. So let's rewording it in a different way. Examine the pH scale below. How does apple juice compare to lemon juice? So, apple juice is here, 3. How does apple juice compare to lemon juice? Before we would look at the options, how would you describe it? Or if I were to give you multiple choice, is apple juice more acidic or less acidic than lemon juice? Less acidic, right? Another way I can say that is apple juice more basic or less basic than lemon juice? More basic, right? It's high enough. Which one has more H plus ions? Apple juice or lemon juice? Yeah, this is lemon juice, right? Because it's more acidic. Likewise, I can say which one has more OH minus ions. And so it would be apple juice. But anyway, the answer to this one would be, there it is. Apple juice has 10 times higher H plus concentration than apple juice because it's more acidic. It's one step away, right? 3 to 10. 3 to 2 is a factor of 10. Here's one you should know. You've drawn it so many times. A single carbon atom can form how many bonds? You drew a bunch of it, right? How many times is this? Yeah, the answer is 4. Now, sometimes they'll have double bonds or triple bonds, but either way, it's 4 bonds. Any questions about that? All right, here we go. Lactose plus glucose gives us lactose and water. What kind of reaction is that? And you do need to know that. Not that you needed to memorize anything about lactose or glucose, but there we have water on the right side of the equation. So water was produced. What's the name? That could be a little bit tricky, but anybody? Do I know the answer to that? Dehydration. It's a dehydration reaction. Whenever you produce water or take water out of the reactants, it's a dehydration reaction. If you were to guess hydrolysis, probably get partial credit. If you were to guess the other ones, you would get 0 credit. That's just filler. It's not even a real thing as far as reactions. Anyway, questions about that? All right, how about the opposite? Just said it. Sucrose plus water gives us glucose plus fructose. So here we have water on the left-hand side. There's the A. There's to say, hydrolysis. When you use water, dehydration. Okay. Questions about that? Which of the molecules listed below are isomers? I'm going to switch that because I told you specifically in the lecture when I talked about that you didn't need to know it. But it is glucose and fructose are isomers. Okay, I'm not going to answer that. Not what's that? Complete the equation. Monosaccharide plus monosaccharide equals blank plus water. Here's another way of looking at this one. 1 plus 1 equals what? Good. Math major? No, but so the answer is A, disaccharide, right? 1 plus 1 equals 2. That's what di means, 2. Any questions about that? All right, what can you conclude about the following reaction? Now, I can ask that. Table sugar is sucrose. It's a disaccharide. I might or might not ask that. Sorry, real quick. I'm just going to get as much covered as I can. We're running out of time. A protein's function is dependent on mostly on what? What is so important about a protein? What is it? Should know this one. This one actually is important, not just for the exam, but this concept would be important later in the semester too. Get shape. Shape, yes. The protein's function is dependent on its shape. A lot of proteins work almost like a lock and key. All about shape. Which molecule is an example of a polysaccharide? Yeah, starch is the example. I might not ask you that. Maltose is disaccharide. You certainly don't have to do that. Excuse me, monosaccharide. Sucrose is disaccharide. Sucrose is monosaccharide. Plants use what? Yeah, this one I might ask. This is a little bit more important. Plants use which molecule as an energy storing carbohydrate? What's the answer to this? The answer is starch. Plants use starch to store energy. Animals use glycogen to store energy. Plants use cellulose for structure. Maltose is garbage. So once again, if that question were on the exam, if you were to guess cellulose or glycogen, you probably get partial credit, 0 credit for guessing cellulose. Cellulose is an example of what? Actually, I just said it. We just talked about it. Polysaccharide. Cellulose is a polysaccharide. Know that. Which substance is hydrophilic? Another way you could look at this question is one of these things is not like the other. So which one of those things does not belong on that list? Good, cellulose, right? Testosterone, butter, cholesterol, those are all lipids, which are hydrophobic. Yes, cellulose is hydrophobic. And again, in my opinion, more importantly than knowing that cellulose is hydrophilic, you should look at that question and say, that thing does not belong with the rest of it. Any questions about that? The next word for attendance will be butter. It's up there. Butter is the next word for attendance. Skip that one. That's too long. Won't be on the exam. Fat contains which molecular components? Let's take it. So there we go. We are done. If you still want more answers, you can meet me in office hours or tell me some other time. I can meet you to do exactly what I'm doing now, just one-on-one. You can record it if you want. I can give you the answers. But yeah, we'll be here on Friday. If you don't want to be here Friday or you want more time to take the exam, whatever, email me today so we can figure something out. I'll do whatever I can to make this easier for you. Yeah, that's it. So.